Okay, welcome back. Tonight on Point Blank, we are exploring insomnia and the ways it affects our lives. Now, we have heard of some cases.
Yep,
right?
we have heard
we have a real life case here,
and we have heard the doctoral
expert opinion on the topic.
Yeah.
So the textbook case.
Yeah, we are actually going to talk about hypnotherapy.
That's
now,
right.
what about it? Earlier on today, Sara actually went to meet two representatives from the London College of Clinical Hypnosis, which are currently collaborating with Tan Tock Seng Hospital. They are Sheila Menon and Karen Ong.
But before we go on, let's take a look at what transpired this morning.
Hi, as one of the few people in Razor TV who doesn't sleep much, I'm here with two hypnotherapists, Sheila Menon and Karen Ong, who are going to teach me how to sleep, I think. How do we go about this, and why is it an alternative remedy?
Okay. Well, clinical hypnosis is a very relaxing state, and given that you're not sleeping very well, it's quite a nice thing to be practicing because it starts to get your body relaxed, it starts to get your brain relaxed, you start to think relaxing thoughts, and that's quite a nice way to begin to get yourself into the right mode for sleeping. But it is more complicated than that, and we'll start to explain it in a minute.
Okay, now how is hypnosis more effective than other alternative remedies that people hear about, like sleeping pills, for example?
Well, prescribing this sleeping pill is given by the doctor. So we are the hypnotherapy that we will not comment on this part.
The place a person goes when they have a sleeping problem is they go and see their doctor first, because there could be other reasons. And the doctor needs to identify that and say that there are no organic reasons or nothing they need to be worried about. Sometimes when we're not sleeping, it can be depression. And we need a GP to pick that up and to send them to the appropriate place. So that's the first point of call, okay? Then what a patient does is they can make a choice. They can decide with the doctor whether they take the sleeping pills, or they can decide with the doctor whether they try another course of action. Going to sleep actually is a natural autonomic process. It happens unconsciously. And when we're sleeping naturally and restfully, what happens is we don't try, we just go to sleep. And we call it in hypnosis the law of reversed effect. And if I take you back to school, all right, do you remember that time when you used to open a book and used to think, I got to stay awake and I got to learn this stuff, and you would get sleepier and sleepier?
Yeah.
Yeah? You know that one? Okay.
Oh, when you tell yourself I have to lose weight so I won't eat.
And you eat?
Yes,
Okay.
eat more. Yeah.
All right. Law of reverse suggestion. And what we do is sometimes we even suggest you go to bed and you try to stay awake. You just try to stay awake, and we try and reverse that process. All right. But with hypnosis,
Cool tactic.
there are a few. Okay. But what you're doing is you're trying to connect the person back to their natural process, because we can all go to sleep. Sometimes we forget how to go to sleep. All right. Not because we can't go to sleep, but because we're so busy trying to do something else. That's if there's no organic problem. That's if there's no psychological problem, and that's where the GP comes in.
Is there a high frequency of insomnia in Singapore?
500,000 people in Singapore suffer from insomnia. That's quite a lot. That's 1 in 8. Yeah? On average, it's 1 in 10. So we could say that maybe Singaporeans are entering a little bit of a stress time, or it could be that the 21st century has arrived. We travel more. We're a bit stressed up more, we worry a little bit more, and maybe, we go out and we eat out more. And all these things aren't very helpful for going to sleep.
But basically put it in this way that I think because of the lifestyle that Singaporean that's stressed up during the work, and not only that, even the housewife also get easy to get stressed out. So these are the basic common complaint that come from them.
Now, what kind of patients do you get, especially in Singapore?
Okay, well, with insomniacs, you get 3 different categories. One category are the people who maybe they have been working really hard, so they're a bit stressed up, or they've been travelling, and for 1 or 2 days, they're not sleeping very well. Then you also have people who maybe for 1 week or 10 days, they can't get to sleep. Maybe something's bugging them, they have a little bit of extra stress, whatever's going on. And the third category you have are the long-term. insomniacs. People who haven't slept very well for a long, long time. And I'm looking at you and you're nodding, so that sounds like you. People who are coming for hypnotherapy tend to be no different from people who come in the UK or Malaysia or actually anywhere else. They come from different age groups. They can be youngsters, they can be teenagers, and they can be older people.
How young have people come in?
Well, I mean, some hypnotherapists will work with young children, but generally we work with, let's say, 9 years old to about 90. My oldest patient has been 90.
With sleeping problems too? They're different.
It's slightly different. People who get older tend to need less sleep, and sometimes what can happen is they still think they need their 8 hours. But of course they don't. And so they go to bed, and 2 hours, 3 hours, and they think, why aren't I asleep? But the nice thing with hypnosis is they say, and I don't know how, I can't quote you the research, but they say that an hour of good hypnosis is equivalent to 3 hours of good sleep. So, it doesn't mean you have to go and see a hypnotherapist every day for an hour of good rest. What it does mean is a clinical hypnotherapist, which I am, which Karen is, what we can do is we can teach you how to relax your body and your mind, how to go into self-hypnosis, and you can practice that 20-minute stretches once in the morning, once in the evening, and as your body, as your brain gets used to going into these lovely relaxing states, even if it's for just a little bit of time, what happens is you start to stimulate that natural response, that natural way of going to sleep, and we start to build up the habit. And instead of building up the habit of overstimulation, maybe, of worrying about not going to sleep, you're building up the habit of actually going to sleep. And it's very, very effective in the UK. That's what I use when I'm working in the UK. I have been using it in Malaysia. And last week, actually, I saw this patient who I'd seen 3 weeks ago. She'd been an insomniac for 16 years. She'd come in, and what we did was we connected her back to when she was 16, and she used to love to go to sleep, took her right out of her worries, and she remembered she used to wear her lovely pyjamas, and that was all very cozy and comfortable. She hated to wake up. And what happened was, we then taught her self-hypnosis. When I saw her last week, she'd actually reduced her medication from 5 tablets, which is way too much, to 1, all right, which was fantastic for 3 weeks, which is a pretty big shift. And she was sleeping. What
is the most common problem that people come to for hypnotherapy in Singapore?
Insomnia and study problem and weight loss, weight management.
Wow.
And smoking and alcohol.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah. And some of the emotional problems. So as you say, that hypnosis, I think can be used for most of the cases. And in the process of hypnotherapy, and the patient will be taught how to use a self-hypnosis. That is pretty good. That which is, I find, that is a must in our daily life, especially nowadays the lifestyle is so much stressful. So by using the self-hypnosis, not only just, I think, treat the current existing problem, and you may use it for the future problems or whatever it is.
So, Dr. Lim, with regard to that patient that they brought up about how she actually managed to reduce her intake of sleeping pills from 5 to 1 in 3 weeks, would you say that hypnotherapy in that case would be an ideal complementary technique for dealing with insomnia? Or?
Well, hypnosis falls outside the mainstream of Western medicine. So the truth about it, or at least what we know about it, is that there's not enough evidence to suggest that it's not evidence-based. In Western medicine, we like to practice evidence-based, that it's been proven in large trials with large group of patients that such and such a treatment works. Although it falls out of the mainstream, I would say that it's very promising, and I think anything that allows the patient's high arousal state to be lowered, however they do it by self-hypnosis or by someone hypnotizing them, theoretically I can see why it might work. Now, since I'm not schooled in hypnosis, I cannot comment in detail about it. But it is plausible that any process which brings down the high arousal state, which is characteristic of many insomnia patients, can reduce their need for medication.
I think a lot of it was they were talking about how they would actually teach the patients to do like self-hypnosis. So I think that's, again, it sounds like a lot of discipline on your own that you actually have to Or, so I mean, drawing back to your previous point about cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yes, all the treatments are actually focused on, because sleep is actually a natural process which supervenes when we've been awake for a long period of time. Like roughly every 16 hours awake will necessitate approximately 8 hours of sleep. So naturally sleep should occur. But the reason why people don't get sleep, like you, Helmi, is that the arousal state is too high, too tense, too much stress, depressed or anxious. So how do you bring that down? You can bring that down by cognitive behavioral therapy, by deep breathing techniques, by visualizing yourself on the beach. That's cognitive behavioral
Counting
therapy.
sheep? No.
Counting sheep is one way to sort of bring your mind down, into from a high level to. If your level of arousal is too high, it will not work. But if you have,
it keeps me awake, and then I feel really bored counting.
Okay, the boredom itself can be, I suppose, arousing. So someone like you who's like maybe more hardcore in the beginning, you may need a stronger tranquilizer. So those drugs range from anxiety drugs to antihistamines to to full blown sleeping pills. And some of the very harmful ones which have been banned in some hospitals, like Domicum, are particularly potent in doing that. I mean, they're anesthetic drugs, they just knock you out. So our goal is to try to bring down the arousal level through natural techniques. And if hypnosis is one of those techniques, I'm always an advocate of things that are not harmful to you. Like
but would you say that hypnosis does not exactly target the cause of the problem?
If the person has, let's say, depression, I mean, hypnosis has been studied for many different conditions. It's just that in mainstream, Western medicine, there's not enough robust studies. Like it's same for traditional Chinese medicine. There's not enough scientific, robust evidence to allow me to say, yes, you can try this or that. I think it falls in the category, in my view, of the things that are generally not harmful and worth considering. If you're a suggestible person and you can be relaxed by this, and if your insomnia is due to a high state of tension that's due to like lifestyle stresses. However, you're right. If your high arousal state is due to a profound generalized anxiety disorder, you might need something stronger than hypnosis. Now, who's to say that hypnosis doesn't work for generalized anxiety disorder? We don't know enough about that. But if you have a mild case of insomnia or anxiety, perhaps it can help. But you're right that we must always focus on what is the cause of the insomnia and target that. Let's say the patient has restless leg syndrome or sleep apnea. I doubt that hypnosis can be the entire cure, but if there's a high arousal state and hypnosis can bring them to a state of relative greater calm, then it could work. But I'd like to emphasize that it's not well studied enough, but it's something that as doctors actually, I personally want to study it more because I think it's a promising treatment for a segment of patients who are hypnotizable. I think as you know, not everybody
highly suggestible people.
Suggestible people,
Okay, before we go for a short breather, I just want to ask you one question. How much sleep do people need?
Okay, that's a good question. I just said that thing about 8 hours. I think the audience shouldn't go away with the idea that 8 hours is what we require. Traditionally, we always say 8 hours, but really the range of sleep for adults ranges on average from 6 to about 10 hours. So if you're sleeping 3 to 4 hours a night, is probably too little. If you're sleeping 11 or 12 hours, it's probably too much. That means there's something wrong. You're sleeping 10 or 11 hours and you're still feeling tired. Now, but there's a small segment of patients that actually do well with very little sleep, and those are called the short sleepers. And some famous short sleepers, anecdotally I know, like Margaret Thatcher, they only sleep about 4 hours, and it's possible. So the amount of sleep that you need is the amount of sleep that when you wake up, you feel fresh and you woke up naturally without an alarm clock or someone shaking you. Once your body gets enough sleep, you'll wake up, and for the rest of the day, you should be fairly alert and not sleepy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Breather time.
Okay.